Thanks Rob for giving me the opportunity to present our paper, Modelling the Decrement in Running Intensity within Professional Soccer Players. On first impression, the term modelling probably suggests that some really intense mathematics is going on in this paper. I don't want to disappoint anyone, but unfortunately that's not the case. We used a really simple technique to look at the relationship between running intensity and time, from which we get a couple of pieces of information that we can swing around into an equation that can estimate peak running intensity for any given value of time. This is really important in team sports because it gives us the ability to prescribe and monitor specific skills drills relative to the most intense phases of a game, or training at game speed. Training at these intensities is the goal because we want to make sure our players are prepared to handle these situations when they arise within a match. So I'll jump straight down to the maths and get that out of the way quickly. Basically, the bulk of this paper was based on our similar papers that we've written in rugby league, rugby union and AFL, where we used a moving average analysis to identify the peak running intensities of competition for a range of durations. This gave us a pretty useful framework, a kind of lookup table, I guess, where we could reference our training drills and see how they compared to game speed. An example of that is in this figure. You can see that we've presented these moving average durations for 1 to 10 minutes across our 4 outcome measures. We've got speed, relative distance is just speed. This is to keep a reviewer happy, so don't worry about that. Average acceleration, details of this can be found elsewhere, but basically that's just an average of all acceleration data, whether that's positive or negative. And then we've also got metabolic power and high speed distance. So the way that we would use this would be for a 3-minute duration or a 3-minute drill, we could look that up and find the relative speed that we need to be running at for match intensity for each of the positions. The problem was it got pretty annoying to keep looking back to this chart or the table, and if the drills weren't exactly equal to an even minute, we sort of had to fill in the gaps. However, you can see a pretty consistent relationship between intensity and time, so we decided to model that relationship. Without going into too much detail here, we just plot the log of y, which is running intensity, against the log of x, which is duration, which gives us an equation of the line, which can be then reconfigured to give the predictive equation of I equals ct to the power of n. In this equation, c represents the intercept, which is the value of intensity when time begins to reach 0, and then n is the slope of the line, or the rate of decline in intensity as time increases. An example of predicted versus actual running speed is here in figure 1, and you can see this predicted line fits pretty well. So basically we modelled this relationship for our 4 outcome measures across all positions, as you can see here in this table. So how this would be used, the intercept would be multiplied by the duration of the drill raised to the power of the slope, which leaves us with predicted match intensity for that value of time. However, 196 meters per minute is just over 3 meters per second, which is well below what you would expect to limit these players physiologically. It's only slow. In team sports, we're often limited by opposition players or the size of the field. Therefore, it's the stopping and starting that is probably most important, and the average acceleration metric does a good job at quantifying this. Now, for the practical applications, the main benefit of this is that this simple formula can be built into any training database to give context to skills-based drills. It allows coaches to manipulate and plan drills and sessions in line with their chosen periodization model, and it helps us replicate the technical and tactical components of competition while physical capacities are being concurrently maintained or hopefully even developed. It is important that if a player can't keep up with these drills, whether that be physically or technically, that they may require overloading with traditional conditioning drills before they can compete at the required level. So we don't want them to bring down the intensity of the drill overall. In terms of limitations, firstly, this technique doesn't account for anything that's going on besides running, so kicking or jumping in soccer, but in other sports, tackling or wrestling, that's just a limitation of GPS. But also the data presented in this paper are for soccer players using 10 Hz catapult GPS. But you need to develop your own thresholds using your own data because there's quite significant differences between levels of competition, different sports, but most of all manufacturers due to differences in smoothing algorithms, etc. Thank you for your time. Hopefully you got something out of this. And if you have any questions, feel free to shoot me an email or a message on Twitter. Thanks.